Welcome to another lovely Saturday, Sword family. This is the Teahouse. As always, I am your most humble host, Bladed Thesis. This week, we are drinking Celestial Seasonings Country Peach Passion. We're going to let it steep for a little bit longer, though, this time, just for fun. All right, so today we are going to talk about the difference between gōngfu and wǔshù. Gōngfu, or kung fu as it's more commonly called, literally means skill, to have great skill. So anyone can have gōngfu. An artist can have gōngfu, a cook, a laborer. It's literally just being skilled. But wǔshù actually means martial art. The character Wu means martial, and Shu means method or art. Now, I know more recently the term wǔshù has kind of taken on a different meaning. When most people think of that word, they think of wǔshù performance, people doing Olympic level forms. There's things like wǔshù steel, which is those lovely floppy, bendy swords that wouldn't actually hold up in a martial context. But the term itself literally means martial art. A soldier in Chinese is a wǔshù, which is a martial person. So, yeah, just like Foxy says in the chat, she has gōngfu for cooking. So do I, to a certain extent. Also, her jewelry making is gōngfu. There's a line in the Jackie Chan Karate Kid movie where he literally says, everything is gōngfu. It's just having skill at something. It has very little to do with martial arts as a whole. Now, you can have gōngfu in martial art, but martial arts is not gōngfu. Martial art is wǔshù. Yeah. Wǔshù, when used in the proper context, that's the term people should be using for Chinese martial arts. But for some reason, people seem to prefer the term kung fu, even though it's an incorrect term. It would be, let's see, it would be like calling everyone a race car driver, even if they're not actually driving a race car just because they drive. You need to use wǔshù, even though it's been co-opted by certain organizations and There's a International Wushu Federation. Oh, excuse me. That goes around and does competition forms when they should be just displaying the martial arts. When I was younger, I wrote a blog post on, I think it was WordPress or one of those other sites, about the difference between gōngfu and wǔshù. And just like now, there's not a lot of engagement, but I don't really care. These things are important to me, and I would rather have people using the right terminology. I mean, if you're going to talk about martial arts, use the actual word, especially when in the context of Chinese martial arts. It's like a few people that I know that doesn't matter the actual cultural connection. They refer to everything as karate just because it's a word that they know. Oh, you watch them karate movies. No, I don't, actually. I watch wuxia movies, which has the same base character wu, which means martial, and xia means hero. Wuxia. Crouching Tiger, Curse of the Golden Flower, House of Flying Daggers, those are all wuxia movies. They're not karate movies. That's just annoying. Oh, I'm sure Kung Fu is familiar, but how did it get that way? How did Kung Fu become the most well-known term? And I think it probably goes back to Bruce Lee in the 70s, bringing over Chinese martial arts. And all of his movies, and it makes a difference. Yeah, racist folks mispronouncing. Yeah, that's the other annoying thing about it, is it's just flat out racism. It's just, oh, we know karate, we know kung fu. Excuse me. We know these words, so we're going to use them. Whoever wrote Kung Fu Fighting, you know, the old Carl Douglas. I don't know if he wrote the song, but he's the one who made it popular. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy that song. Every single wedding that I've been to since I was 12 years old, if there's a DJ, I will go and request that song. And a handful of times it's been played. Oh, yeah, House of Flying Daggers is an amazing wuxia movie. And it's also a study in color theory, just like Hero is. If you watch wuxia movies, and as I've mentioned on past streams, people in America, if they don't have things explicitly explained to them, they're just, oh, they don't believe in gravity over there. No. Wuxia movies are literally Chinese superhero movies. That's just what it is. They have trained, and they're able to work their body up into such a high level that they're able to do things that the regular lay people can't actually do. There's a lot of wuxia movies out there, and TV series. I know I'm supposed to be talking about the difference between gōngfu and wǔshù, but I basically already said my piece, and it took like 5 minutes. So, wǔshù is martial art. Gōngfu is to have great skill. It's not really that difficult of a concept. If you're not going to use the right term, then at least understand the difference. And yes, Kung Fu fighting is just a fun song. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, there's also an element of racism within the song of using names that are vaguely racist, but that kind of happens all over the place. Okay. We have a chat question. Yay! What are some of the different genres of wuxia? Well, you have the overall classification that's just wuxia. That's kind of the big overarching category. And you could also kind of consider that to be the like progenitor, the beginning. You have xianxia, which is a different classification that kind of translates to immortal or cultivator. One of my favorite all-time TV series, The Untamed, is actually a xianxia. You have people who aren't just martial heroes. They call themselves cultivators. They cultivate the martial arts. They cultivate their skills, and they go out into the world, and they use that cultivation to better the world around them. So I'm not sure if there's really, I mean, you can also consider them to be costume drama, or the same kinds of classifications that like American movies fall into. You have romance, and you have buddy cop, and you have all of those things exist within wuxia. I watched one last year, I think, maybe even around this time last year, called Longest Day in Chang'an. It was a wuxia. It was a police drama, a buddy cop show, a costume drama. All of these things exist simultaneously within wuxia. How do you feel that wuxia movies relate to people's experience of gōngfu and wushu? Everyone within a wuxia movie or a novel or a TV series all have gōngfu. Everyone. The butchers, the people performing acrobatics on a street corner, they all have gōngfu. But they don't all practice wushu. Hey, behave, Foxy. We're not even going to go into that. We're not going to talk about that. That's also a good movie, and also falls within the wuxia subcategory. It's not a terribly well-known film, at least not in, I guess, not in the West. It is called The Duel, and it is about, well, it's about a duel between two famous, well-known swordsmen who agree to meet and have a duel on top of, is it the Imperial Palace, I think? It's been a while since I've seen it. And there's one scene there that Foxy's referencing that we're not going to talk about. Because it's, yeah. That's, yeah, we're just not going to get into that. But let's look at, the Untamed. There are so many characters in that TV series that practice martial arts, that practice martial cultivation. They're all wushu students, wushu practitioners. But then you have some of the smaller characters that don't practice martial arts, but could still be considered to have gōngfu. The people who transport the main characters from one village to another on a boat. All they've known their entire lives is rowing a boat. They have gōngfu for rowing a boat. And you could very easily transfer that knowledge to martial arts, but they don't or can't, or for whatever reason, they're just boat rowers. But they still have gōngfu for their particular craft. Costume drama, historical drama, yeah, whatever. It's pretty much all the same thing. It's a classification that means that the characters are wearing what could be considered historical costumes. Yes. like The Untamed, like Longest Day in Chang'an, and Crouching Tiger and Hero. These are all costume or historical drama because the characters are wearing clothes that sadly are not as prevalent in the modern day, especially with the amount of layers you usually have to wear most of the time. Okay. Let's see what else we can talk about. My all-time favorite MMORPG is Nine Dragons, and Nine Dragons falls easily, squarely within the wuxia or possibly even xianxia category. You have 6 famous, well-known sect, SECT, that are present in almost every single wuxia story. You have Shaolin, you have Wudan, and you have League of Beggars on the good guy side. And on the bad guys, you have Heavenly Demon, Sacred Flower, and Brotherhood of Thieves. Now, Heavenly Demon and Sacred Flower are not terribly well known in most wuxia works, but anyone who has been watching wuxia knows Shaolin, they know Wudan, they know League of Beggars, and they probably know Brotherhood of Thieves. Sacred Flower only accepts women, just like Shaolin only accepts men. So you have a little bit of a balance there on other sides of the coin. I would not necessarily classify the Brotherhood of Thieves as an evil clan if for no other reason than just because they're breaking the law, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're evil. Just because they go against the imperial edicts doesn't necessarily make them bad people. Just like it's not necessary that Shaolin or Wudan or League of Beggars are always the good guys. There's always that lovely gray area where you, to your side, to your sect, you think you're the good guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that to everyone else you're always the one on the right side. Wudon, just like in real life, is famous for their swordplay. Shaolin uses snaps and cudgels and things like that. League use short sticks. The Heavenly Demon uses the Dao. Now, why do the good Wudan use a Jian and the evil Heavenly Demon use Dao? excuse me, it's because of perception. The Jian in Chinese culture is known as the gentleman of all weapons. So it's primarily seen as a gentleman's weapon. And if you look at most sword forms, you can kind of see why. It's not, I hesitate to use the word brutal, but it's very fluid and honestly kind of pretty. Whereas Dao forms have lots of hacking and slashing and kind of aggressive looking movements. So that's why Heavenly Demon uses Dao and Wudong uses Jian. Shaolin uses staffs and cudgels because Shaolin monks take a vow never to kill anything. So the easiest way to, dispatch a bandit or end a fight is without killing someone is to just knock them out or make it so they can't continue to fight with you. Now, I play obviously other games besides just RPGs. And one thing that always kind of bothers me is the lack of availability of Chinese weapons. I mean, there's 2 characters, I think, in Soul Calibur that have Chinese weapons, and they don't even really look the part. I mean, the Dao does. The Dao is a pretty universal weapon. It's not that hard to animate and things like that. But Xianghua's no name, yeah, no, I don't like that. And besides Nine Dragons, I also love Skyrim. But why can you not have either a Jian or a Dao if you can have a katana? There's katanas in Oblivion. There's katanas in Skyrim. Yes, the blades, but there are a very limited class of weapons when it comes to Elder Scrolls. And I know there are mods out there where you can get different weapons, and there's a couple that do give you some Chinese weapons, but I'm a console gamer and I don't have a next gen console. I have an Xbox 360 and I have a PS3. So those are not available to me. And honestly, you wouldn't even really have to change a lot of the sword animations to make them. I mean, you could use this. Every single weapon in the Skyrim uses the same basic animation for combat. It's just hacky slashy for everything. You have an axe. You fight like this. You have a sword. You fight like this. You have a mace. You fight like this. Two-handed weapons, it's the same thing. You just added second hand and you're going like this. So why could they not have a Tien or a Dao or both? Yes, I've started on Skyrim's weapons. There's a half hour left in this show. I might take up all the next half hour just complaining about Skyrim weapons. I understand that the weapons are supposed to match with the overall general location of where you are. In Oblivion, most of your weapons look like kind of medieval European weapons, because Cyrodiil is basically modeled after kind of a medieval European world. Skyrim is based off a Nordic world, so a lot of the weapons are going to look Nordic. But you also have a damn katana in both games. There's no reason why you couldn't include a Tien, keep the same fight animations, and you could easily make a different Tien for each of the different weapon classes in Skyrim. It's like iron, steel, glass, elven, orcish, ebony, daedric, Nordic. You could easily have a different gen for every single one of those classes. It would not be that difficult, and your fight animations would be exactly the same, because they're the same for everything. Hell, there are mods out there that introduce kopeshes and rapiers, and if I had the ability, I would go and make a Skyrim mod and just have different gen for every single weapon class in the entire game, and just, I mean, there's even the Dawnstar armor that you get from the Dawnstar DLC looks a little bit, it's not exact, but it looks close enough to Chinese lamellar armor that it wouldn't have been difficult to make the Dawnstar weapons look more Chinese. Wouldn't be that hard. I also think it would be interesting to throw in deer horn knives, because once again, you're using the exact same fight animations. Deer horn knives are also called meridian axes, so you could throw them in the classification of an axe. You could use just one, or you could use them as a pair. This is going to become, this half hour, 25 minutes is going to become this Skyrim rant section, just because there's so many things. I love the game. It is by far my favorite Elder Scrolls games of the ones I played, which I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online, but I played Morrowind, I played Oblivion, and I played Skyrim. And Skyrim is easily the best of those three games, in my opinion. But there are things that I think the game did wrong, that Oblivion did right. but that does not make Oblivion the better game. The fact that they brought in dual wielding in Skyrim when they didn't have it in Oblivion is cool. You can have a sword and a dagger, or a sword and an axe. You can have sword and shield, axe and shield. There's millions and millions of combinations that you could easily do. But one thing you cannot do that has made my current playthrough kind of annoying, that you could do, at least as far as I remember in Oblivion, is in Skyrim, if you're using a two-handed weapon, like a greatsword or a big-ass hammer, you cannot heal yourself in combat without putting your weapon away. And if I remember right, you could do that in Oblivion, because your left bumper was always hotkeyed to magic. So you could always cast a spell with your left hand, even if you had a two-handed weapon in your right. Skyrim also took away the ability to fight underwater. That was a mistake. Because I cannot tell you how many times I've been annoyed at trying to fast travel. And yes, I use fast travel. Shut up. Trying to fast travel, and you can't fast travel when there's an enemy nearby, and the enemy is damn slaughterfish in the water. And unless they come close enough to the shore, you can't fight them. It's a pet peeve of mine, basically. But I still think that Skyrim is the better game, easily. Far as I'm concerned, you're not the main character in Oblivion. You're not. Martin is. Martin is the main character of that game. Everything you do is for him. You're just the most prominent NPC. Whereas Skyrim, you are the Dragonborn. You are the person that the entire country of Skyrim is talking about. Yeah, you run around and do things for the Blades or for the Greybeards, but not everything. You are the main character. And what's wrong with fast travel? Well, the same people that complain about you're not a real gamer unless you play every single game on the hardest difficulty level also think that unless you walk everywhere, they basically want you to play the game on survival mode. You can't use fast travel. You have to make sure to sleep every day, make sure to eat every day, pay attention to, don't walk around in topless fur armor in the snow or you're going to freeze to death. If I remember, Fallout New Vegas, I think, when you first start the game, it asks if you want to turn on survival mode. so that you have to make sure to sleep and eat and drink. And the first time I saw that, I'm like, no, I'm playing a video game to escape from reality, not so I have to make sure to drink enough water when I'm walking through the desert so I don't die. And there's another one. Fallout 3, also made by Bethesda, same company that made Skyrim. Fallout 3 has a Jian in it. And it fits within the world because it's a Chinese officer sword. It's in the game. Why couldn't they have just ported that from Fallout to Skyrim? Okay, that's 10 minutes of ranting about Skyrim. So we have a chat question. And suppose I could personally show the difference, but speaking of Jian and Dao, can you show an example of each for the people? Yes, I can. I would just have to get up. Obviously, because I talked about it, I think, in my first and second stream. Here, we have a Han Dynasty Jian. The handle is easily long enough for 3 hands. Very small handguard, straight, double-edged. Now, this, as I've also mentioned before, is a Ming and Qing dynasty Jian. Have our tassel. Very different shaped guard, but still straight, still double-edged. This is one style of Dao. And my scabbard is coming apart. That's disappointing. You have a disc-shaped guard, lightly curved, single-edged, very thick spine. That particular, yes, we have weapons in every room in the house. This is true. There's a sword rack back there. That's all curved weapons. There's one in my second bedroom over there that's all straight weapons. I have 3 Hanjian on a small rack in the hallway. There's another rack of short weapons in my bedroom. So, yeah, lots and lots and lots of. They're not all swords. I have spear. I have staff. I have 2 different Kwandao. The most of the time, when you see Dao, it's going to look like this. Your blade curving in one direction, your handles kind of curving in the other direction. Disc pommel, they're not terribly wide, although some of them are. Some of them have a thinner ricasso, and then they get wider as they come out. Lately, I've been seeing a lot more of the Hanjian in a lot of the different shows and things that I'm Yes, there's completely forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. Foxy has a Tien in the bedroom that's just it has a flower on the guard. It's just really pretty. It's kind of an awesome looking sword, but it has issues. It doesn't fit very well in the scabbard. I can't figure out what the problem is, but once you get it in there, it doesn't like to come out. And when you're sheathing it, it gets to a certain point and then it just kind of binds up. I don't know. What weapons in the bathroom? There's no weapons in the bathroom. I should remedy that, shouldn't I? Actually, no, that's not entirely true. There is one in a drawer in the bathroom. I completely forgot about that. It came from my ex friend and Sherfu. It is a hidden dagger comb. So yeah, there's also weapons in the bathroom. Hello, Pupper. You come say hi. Hi, baby. Yeah. She wants to know who I'm talking to. Oh, hush, baby. You're fine. Okay. Let's go. Yep, there's my pupper. Dynasty Warriors, yeah. Dynasty Warriors is an awesome game. Especially when you get to, was it Dynasty Warriors Empire? Where you could basically make your own character and insert them into the story. Romance of the Three Kingdoms is also a wuxia story. And anyone who hasn't actually gone out and read that book, I highly recommend you do it. Or actually, it's several books, but that doesn't matter. I know multiple people. The first one I played was, I want to say Dynasty Warriors 3 or 4. And I know so many people that know a lot about, the Three Kingdoms period because of those games. And they know some pronunciations from those games, but a lot of the voice work is not great. It's pretty obvious that, they just have voice actors that are just reading from a script and they're not actually all that interested in pronouncing words correctly. I also enjoyed Samurai Warriors, which is obviously the Japanese version of Dynasty Warriors. It's the same basic, it's talking about Japanese history instead of Chinese. But I enjoyed Dynasty Warriors. I just wish they would pronounce names correctly. It's kind of like a lot of other HEMA-based YouTubers that when they see historical inaccuracy in movies and things, it drives them crazy. I go crazy when I hear things pronounced incorrectly. For the most part, historical accuracy doesn't really faze me all that much. Because for the most part, I'm watching a movie, not a documentary. Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the books that Dynasty Warriors are based off of, they're not completely 100% historically accurate. There's some history in them, of course, but there's also not. Yes, I have gōngfu with playing video games. Thank you. That's true. But mispronunciation just, it drives me. And it probably shouldn't, because most of the time, if I'm watching something from Asia, from China, I'm watching it with subtitles, so it's not really that big a deal. But occasionally, I'll watch something, from an American or a British person or, whatever, and they don't pronounce things correctly, and it drives me crazy. The biggest offender is the word jian when it's used. I've heard it pronounced Jin. I've heard it pronounced I can't even think of all the different ways right off the top of my head, but if you're going to use the word, use it correctly. If you're not, if you can't, then just call it a Tai Chi sword like Forged in Fire did. The first time the Jian popped up on Forged in Fire, after years of them correctly pronouncing many other different ethnic weapons, the first time it pops up, they call it a Tai Chi sword. Why? Because it's mostly associated with Tai Chi. Just like all the ignorant people that refer to the katana as a samurai sword. It's not a difficult word to pronounce if you break it down. Ji en. Tien. Not that hard. You also hear things like Wu Dang instead of Wudan. They put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Dead space. So, to recap, gōngfu means to have skill. You can have gōngfu as a writer, a musician, jewelry maker, anything and everything can have gōngfu, can be gōngfu. Wǔshù is martial arts. If you're going to talk about especially Chinese martial arts, talk about wǔshù. Don't talk about gōngfu. How's the tea? The tea is all right. I think I like the black cherry one from last time better. It could maybe use a little bit of sweetening. Maybe some honey. I'm not sure. But it's not bad. It's all right. Look through the chat, even though there's only Foxy here. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left. Just a small little mini rant. Everyone thinks that wushu is a dance. And they're right. Wushu is dancing. Most Chinese forms, especially a lot of the internal ones, don't look like they'd be very effective in an actual fight. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't misinterpret the 90-year-old Chinese man doing Tai Chi in the park. If he's been doing it for 80 years, more than likely he could fold your ass up like a silk shirt and tuck you into his back pocket. The reason that martial arts exist is because they are effective. Now, have they become a sport? Have they become more dance and less combative? Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the core is not still the same. It is still a martial art. It's still a fight. go out and find your fight. If you can't find a Chinese art that you like, doesn't hurt my feelings any. Everyone is going to have to find their own fight. Japanese, Korean, European, they all have their own fighting systems. I've been practicing Chinese martial arts for more than half my life. That's where my passion is. And if I can help other people come to the same style as me, makes me happy. If I have to direct them elsewhere, if I have to direct them to Nick Tockert at the Historical Fencing Guild, Friday night streams at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, go check it out. There have been times in my life where I had to send someone that I care deeply about to someone else to learn. Because the things that they are interested in is not something that I am knowledgeable in. The only reason I found Nick's stream in the first place was because I was trying to learn more about HEMA, historical European martial arts, for other people that I care about. I'm still a student, even after 20 some odd years, 26 years. I'm still a student. If someone that I care about wants to learn something that I'm not able to teach, I'll learn alongside them. We'll be students together. If I can teach, then I will teach. Well, I think that's probably all for today. I will be back on December 9th. Look forward to more discussions on Chinese culture, history, philosophy, and of course, wǔshù. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend. 再见。